Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm quite drunk. I've been to a party and there was booze. Don't judge me. But anyway, I'm gonna be responding to a user who used to be called the Stigmadeign, who is now called Raven Wolf, aka Ravenous Wolfman. Now, before I get into this video, I should state the guy is a true intellectual heavyweight, and I honestly fear for my reputation because this guy just has so much dirt on me that I don't even know if I can successfully refute his arguments, because shit, I mean, I've encountered some sharp wits in my time, but he's like a razor, so take it away.
You know, I just recently got a comment by a user that I had problem with a few years back, a previous channel I had.
For those of you who haven't yet guessed, yes, the user in question is me. And the reason he no longer has that channel is because, surprise, surprise, it was terminated due to repeated violations of community guidelines, i.e. hate speech. But let's go on. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's still some way you can seem like the victim in all of this, Stigmadeign. I mean, Raven Wolf. I mean, Ravenous Wolfman. I mean, sad middle-aged man sat on his own in the one remaining room which isn't filled from floor to ceiling with rubbish and other various detritus wearing a ridiculous 99-cent Halloween mask. I mean, warrior of God.
And this user just made like this so-called parody skit that YouTube doesn't consider as hate speech against religion.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't hate speech against religion, Stigmadeign. It was a video that mocked your ridiculous and hateful views about prostitutes. And it was well received. Got mirrored by a few people. You filed repeated flags to try and get it taken down, and failed. Yeah, the original video's still up there. It's got an adult rating because of the amount of swearing that you do. But yeah, it's not hate speech, so I'm glad we've got that settled. So, not hate speech. Could have ended your video there, but I'm sure there's more. Go on, go on.
And this person just drug my name through the dirt and got away with it.
Oh my god, I fucking love this, because the way you say it, this person dragged my name through the dirt and got away with it. As if there was a name of good standing to begin with. As if before I came along, you were like the most well-respected guy ever, you know, like loved universally, everybody accepted you, then the big, mean 21-year-old unemployed student came along and made a dickhead out of you, and that was when everything fell apart for you. I mean, it wasn't the second you started talking about human beings as if they were pieces of meat for you to judge, you know. I'm sure it wasn't anything to do with all of those lewd PMs you sent to Divinity. By the way, does your girlfriend know about that, Stigmadeign? You know, like those lewd, sexually suggestive messages that you sent to sex workers while simultaneously claiming that you couldn't stand sex workers. Oh, and what about that drunken party you had with those friends of yours where you were slapping those fat ladies' buttocks on the video? That one you took down just after I responded to you. What? Any of that stuff does she know about? That's a casket of worms. But yeah, totally. I mean, up until I responded to you, your name was in good standing, and I took an innocent child, a lamb of God, and just, you know, drug him through the dirt. You know, you're like the Messiah on the cross, is what you are, Stigmadeign. You suffered so much on our behalf, and then all we do is hurt you even more. It's all about you, baby. You fucking pathetic piece of shit.
And YouTube still allows them to get away with it.
Yeah, they do. Freedom of speech, motherfucker. You know that law that allows you to go around calling me a piece of shit and saying I should burn in hell for all eternity and that you'd fucking kill me if you weren't such a good Christian? I still have that personal message, by the way. If you want to dispute the fact that you never told me that you'd kill me if you weren't a Christian, I can just go and get the message, so your call there. Yeah, you know that law that protects you to do those things? That's the same law, freedom of speech, Stigmadeign, that allows me to call you a fucking idiot when you're being a fucking idiot. Try and follow this. So, the same law that allows you to be abusive towards other people, calling people fucking whores and other things, okay? That same law allows me to point at you and laugh. And if you honestly think that that law unfairly targets you, then you're a fucking idiot.
And his excuse for that recently, just now, about 10 minutes ago, was, oh, you shouldn't have said what you said about sex workers.
No, that wasn't my excuse. I don't need an excuse to exercise freedom of speech, Stigmadeign. My reasoning was that if you say something stupid, I have the right to respond and point out why you're stupid. I didn't say that I responded because you shouldn't say those things about sex workers. I mean, as it happens, I don't think you should say those things. I think you have the right to, and because you have the right to say those horrible, hurtful things, I have the right to respond, and point at you, and laugh, and call you an idiot.
Well, if you don't like the word whore, don't be one.
You know, you didn't just say that to me in this video that you've made just now. You said that to another user when they pointed out to you that calling people fucking whores and objectifying them like that was kind of hurtful. Obviously, you must think that that's a really clever thing to say. You know, generally I find that if people say really dumb shit repeatedly, then the only reason they could do that is that they're not aware that it's dumb and that they actually think it's really clever. So, this might be kind of a shock to you, but Stigmadeign, that's a fucking retarded argument. That is completely moronic. It's stupid, okay? Let's just examine it, just so I can try and explain to you, you know, in little baby spoonfuls, why it's stupid. If you don't like being called whores, don't act like them. You could use this reasoning for anything. If you don't like being called a nigger, don't act like one. If you don't like being called a faggot, don't act like one. If you don't like being called a spick, don't act like one. Do you understand yet? No, of course you don't. The reason, Stigmadeign, and I tried explaining to you in your comments section, but of course you blocked me as soon as I started responding. How democratic of you, by the way. Nice to see you're defending the democratic principles of the country you so love. But anyway, as I was trying to explain, your argument there, it kind of ignores the point. Here's the thing. I've got nothing against prostitutes. Wouldn't use their services, don't actively encourage people to be prostitutes, but I've no problem with them existing. Kind of how, like, I don't have a problem with Jehovah's Witnesses existing. I wouldn't encourage somebody to be a Jehovah's Witness. I don't particularly want to use the services of the Jehovah's Witnesses, but I don't begrudge their mere existence. You, on the other hand, are taking a word which has specifically got negative connotations, such as whore, and then saying, if you don't like it, don't be a whore. I mean, seriously, for example, a black person has black-coloured skin. A negative term which is usually applied to black people by racists is the term nigger. You've just done the equivalent to prostitutes of telling a black person that if they don't want to be called a nigger, they should stop acting like one. Now, hopefully, you might just begin to understand how fucking retarded that argument is, but I'm sure there's a massive Teflon layer of faith insulating your tiny little fucking brain that stops you from realising that shit and having that much of a shock applied to your fucking minuscule, but yet somehow highly driven ego.
And I'll tell you one thing, mister.
You know what I found so funny about this? The fact that you lean towards the camera and say "Mister" as if you're trying to be, what, condescending, patronising. Have you seen yourself? You're a man in your 40s who looks like he's in his 70s, who's wearing a 99-cent store fucking wolf mask, trying to talk down to me. Maybe if you'd have, like, worn a fucking suit, you know, and, like, not acted insane, that line would have had more impact. But instead, it's just sad and ironic. It's just a testament to how much of a clusterfuck of failure you are as a human being.
I don't appreciate the fact that you people in another country are online encouraging the women and their daughters here in the United States to become prostitutes or sex workers.
Stigma, I mean, if you're gonna rant like an insane bastard, you could at least not obviously lie whilst you're doing it. Again, if you're claiming that I'm actually encouraging people to be sex workers, then you better have some fucking proof of it, otherwise I'm just going to count you as being a spineless allegation-making pussy who doesn't have anything to back it up with. And you wouldn't want to make yourself look like a pussy, would you? I mean, after all, you're so concerned with that big, strong, tough guy image that it would look really badly upon you if you know, were unable to follow through on any of your accusations. It would make you look like kind of a little bitch, really. But yeah, as I said, haven't been encouraging anybody to be prostitutes. I just think that seeing as prostitutes always exist, whether prostitution is legal or illegal, we may as well make it legal and try and protect the individuals who, you know, prostitute themselves. Because it is a sad set of circumstances that typically leads to somebody becoming a prostitute, but it's even sadder that we live in a society that actually demonifies and vilifies these victims and ends up punishing them rather than helping them, when, let's face it, a lot of the time prostitutes aren't exactly reaping much benefit. In fact, most of the time don't really have a good time with things, you know, violent pimps, assaulting johns, that kind of thing. But, I mean, obviously, me trying to protect the rights of people who already exist is me trying to encourage people to become that thing. You know, obviously, because I defend the rights of prostitutes, that means I encourage prostitution. The same way, seeing as I defend your right to be a Christian, that obviously means that you should be a Christian. And that other people should be Christians. Wait a minute, no, that's fucking retarded, isn't it, Stigmadeign? In fact, one could actually say that it's possible to defend the rights of a group without actually advocating that that group has the answer to all of life's problems and that people should emulate that group. But again, all of this just clearly went over your head, because if it didn't, you wouldn't still be this fucking stupid at age 102.
This isn't your country, so you keep your fucking mouth shut!
You know what I find so deliciously ironic about that? I mean, apart from the fact that, again, it's somebody as pathetic as you trying to act tough and scary, the fact that somebody from the US, whose constitution places such a heavy emphasis on freedom of speech and exchange of ideas, telling somebody from another country to shut the fuck up because they're from another country. Because as we all know, when you enter New York and there's the Statue of Liberty, the plaque on the side says, anybody who doesn't have a green card best shut the fuck up. Utter tit.
About the women here and what you think they should do!
Oh my god, you stupid fuck, shut the fuck up, seriously, please, you're just painfully stupid now. You were amusing before, in a kind of confusing way, now you're just being dumb. I'm not telling women what to do, I'm not telling women in general what to do, I'm not telling any women what to do. Try and accept this, Stigmadeign, okay? Right, I'm gonna say this slowly. Some women are prostitutes. I don't encourage women to be prostitutes because, in the current system, prostitutes are often in danger because prostitution is illegal. I think prostitution should be legal because regardless of whether it is legal or isn't legal, people are prostitutes. However, if we legalise it and put rules on it and police it and keep the individuals involved in it safe, less people will actually get hurt. I mean, I'm sure one of the many reasons why you dislike prostitution is because so many women get hurt through it. Well, Stigmadeign, did you know that in countries like the Netherlands, where prostitution is legalised, they actually have a much lower rate of sex workers being assaulted? Because it's all done in the open. It's not done next to schools, it's not done in your face, but it's kept in the open. And it's invigilated, and it's policed, and it's guarded, and people are kept safe. Because whether you like it or not, Stigmadeign, at the end of the day, people are always going to pay for sex. And if you illegalise something, you demonise it. That is the result. People equate the law with morality all too much. And if you make prostitution illegal, people will look down on prostitutes. And the more people look down on prostitutes, the more they'll be seen as a target. And the more they're seen as targets, the more bad things happen to them. And the more bad things that happen to prostitutes, the more women that are hurt. And it's really as simple as that. I don't like prostitution. I don't personally approve of it. I don't think it's something that should occur, but I also acknowledge that it does. And I also acknowledge that the people who do it are human beings. And I acknowledge that as a human being, I want other human beings to be safe, happy, content, and not have to fear for their lives or their livelihoods. And because of that, I think it should be legal, and I think it should be protected. Is there anything in that which is so conflicting with the message of Jesus Christ when you really think about it, Stigmadeign? I mean, really, actually think. Just once. I will ask you one favour as your dearest enemy. Just think. Think what the carpenter would say. Would he really want governments to chase these people down and turn them into monsters? Would he really want them to fall between the cracks? Would he really want them to be murdered because it's okay because they're just, as you would say, fucking whores? No, he wouldn't. And if you think he would, then you've obviously read about the wrong kind of Jesus.
Because you're the ones encouraging them to become prostitutes. This is the United States of America. It is not a whorehouse.
You know, it's really sad to me that despite the fact you remember how utterly trounced you were the other year when I paid attention to you and engaged you, you still haven't remembered the lessons that I was trying and that other people tried to teach you. Legalizing prostitution wouldn't make, as you so hyperbolically put it, the United States into one giant whorehouse. The same way when, as I said before, booze was re-legalized, the US did not turn into one gigantic brewery. If you're really resorting to the idea that legalizing prostitution will make the United States nothing but prostitutes, then frankly there's nothing I can say in return to that. Not because it's a clever argument, but because it's fucking stupid. Just in such absolute terms, so utterly fucking moronic, so completely vapid, so absent of any kind of rational thought or consideration for the livelihoods and lives of other people, and the fucking basic sensibilities which humankind is apparently endowed with, that I am just lost for words, Stigmadeign. If you're actually arguing that legalising something will turn the country into a representation of the thing that has been legalised, then you're a fucking idiot. No moral, no lesson there. You're just an idiot. But you can learn. You're not naturally stupid, Stigmadeign. You're taught stupid. You've been taught to fear change, to fear the idea of any kind of revision of what we know as morality. You've been taught that morals are absolute and instilled by God, and that questioning them in any way is, by definition, immoral. You know what is immoral to me? Thinking that morals are absolute and that we've got it all figured out. Because, Stigmadeign, if we already had it all figured out and we had an airtight moral code, the world wouldn't, quite frankly, be quite as fucked up as it is. Quite frankly, if the world was already morally absolute, you and I wouldn't exist. Because this is a flawed world, with flawed people and flawed systems, and the only way things are ever going to get better, the only way things are ever going to change for the better, is if we actually acknowledge there is a flaw and try and work at it, instead of jamming our hands in our ears, screaming at the fucking whores, and acting like everything's A-O fucking 1950s apple pie okay.
Do you understand? And if you don't like it, fuck off!
Seeing as your closing note was telling me and anybody who disagrees with you to fuck off, I guess I'll have my own little closing note, Stigmadeign. And you know what? I want you to understand this, Stigmadeign. And I mean this. I don't hate you. I don't think you're the worst person ever. I think you just have really, really fucking stupid ideas. That's not me dragging you through the dirt. As a person, you are still the same person you were before you made your stupid YouTube account. You need to understand that when a bunch of people are shouting at something you've done and calling you a fucking idiot, it is still possible that you are just being a fucking idiot, Stigmadeign. And here's the thing, I understand you don't like prostitution. If you were listening to this video, which you probably weren't, I've explained that I don't really like it either. But you have to be realistic, and you have to be rational, and you have to think outside of your judgment. You have to understand that the morals you apply to yourself don't necessarily apply to others. If you think that they do, then you're a fascist, Stigmadeign. There is no other way to sum it up. You are a fascist. If you think everybody else should conform to the way that you think, to the way that you see the world, you've removed the possibility of choice, the possibility of improvement, the possibility of change. Everything is static and nothing ever changes, and everybody conforms to the rule because the rule exists and the rule is unquestioned. If you really think that that is the way that you would want the world to run, then start a dictatorship. If, deep down, Stigmadeign, you acknowledge that people aren't necessarily all the same as you, and that other people need different things to you, then join the club and be part of the change. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, we're done with each other, because if you refuse to acknowledge that you've made some kind of error, then you're beyond all hope.